Today I'll reveal when you can expect the first reviews for Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl, and we'll take a look at some early impressions from press representatives who have already had the chance to play, and then we'll also discuss what those who already received their Xbox discs and have spent a few hours in the zone are saying. There's plenty of new information about the gameplay itself and the game's performance, so buckle up and let's dive right in. First, let's start with great news. Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl is currently the best-selling non-free-to-play game on Steam. This is fantastic news for the developer GSC Game World, and it looks like Stalker 2 is heading toward an absolutely successful launch. Have you already pre-ordered Stalker 2? If so, on which platform are you going to play? Feel free to let me know in the comments. Next up, it's all about the release times for Stalker 2. The developer officially announced a global release today. On the west coast of the USA, Stalker 2 will release on all platforms on November 20th at 8 AM Pacific time. And in the UK, for example, on November 20th at 4 PM. So everyone on PC can start downloading at that time, and those on Xbox who have already downloaded the game can begin playing right away. And then there are those who pre-ordered the disc version for Xbox. They can, of course, start playing as soon as they receive the disc and install the game. Since Saturday, some people have already received their Xbox disc versions, and some of them have even shared a few insights into their first impressions of the game and its performance. But before we take a closer look at that, I want to quickly discuss the review embargo that everyone has been eagerly waiting for. Many of you naturally want to wait for reviews and ratings of the game before purchasing it. And here, I have to say, there's somewhat disappointing news. As a senior editor from Insider Gaming has just revealed, the review embargo will lift only 2 hours before the game's release. This means that the reviews won't be allowed to go live until 6 AM Pacific time on Wednesday. And yes, I have to admit that gives me some serious Cyberpunk 2077 vibes. To be honest, I'm not a fan of such tight review embargoes. But the second part of the journalist's message is a little more positive, as he also shared his thoughts on the game so far and how he thinks it will be received. Let's take a look at that. In a post on Twitter, he mentions that he's really sad Stalker 2 is releasing too late to be nominated for the Game of the Year awards. He thinks it would likely win Game of the Year. As you might know, the nominations have already been announced, and therefore the cutoff for nominations has passed. This means that any games releasing later can participate in the Game Awards. So Stalker 2 won't be eligible for the Game Awards until 2025. And all of that is just because it's releasing about 2 days too late. Yeah, well, then they'll just win Game of the Year in 2025 instead. Am I right? A few days ago he also mentioned that people are not ready for Stalker 2. I have to say that comment has me feeling a lot more optimistic and excited about what's to come. But now let's dive into what people who've already received their Xbox disc versions and have been playing for a few days have shared about their experiences. Thankfully, some of them have been kind enough to provide a few details. On a quick note, I want to add that none of them had the brand new Day 1 patch available that boasts a whopping 138 GB, which is almost a re-download of the full game. This patch should provide tons of fixes and enhancements. Just keep that in mind. On Reddit, user Lostman138 posted that he has already received his copy of the game. When asked directly how the game is, he gave a short but positive reply. Good. A response to this by War Begins With You added a bit of humor to the discussion, and I found it so amusing that I decided to include it here. It definitely brought a smile to my face. When another Reddit user asked if the performance on Xbox was solid, Lostman138 kept it simple yet reassuring, replying, "It is." Another player, French Nick, who also received his disc early, shared a bit more about his experience. He mentioned he has played for about an hour and said that everything looks good so far. According to him, there have been no performance issues or weird things, aside from the anomalies of course, which are very much expected in the Stalker universe. The most detailed insights, however, come from the German YouTuber Konsolenguru. He posted an unboxing video of his Xbox disc version on his channel. On top of that, he went a step further by answering several questions in the comment section, providing some extra details about his early impressions of the game. One user wanted to know how well the game is optimized, specifically whether it maintains a stable 60 frames per second or experiences drops that might cause distortions in dynamic scenes. According to Konsolenguru, there are occasional frame drops. He plays on a Sony OLED TV with VRR, the variable refresh rate enabled, which he says makes the experience feel smoother overall. He also mentioned that the developers had previously stated the game would run at 55 to 60 FPS on the Xbox Series X, and based on his experience, that estimate seems about right. Another user asked whether the game runs smoothly in performance mode or if the frame rate leaves something to be desired. The answer was a bit mixed. While the game runs decently, there are other titles that manage to hold a consistent 60 FPS better. As an example, Console Guru compared it to Far Cry 5 and Far Cry 6. While those games might not be perfect comparisons, being open world and first-person games, they tend to run more smoothly in his opinion. He attributes the issue to the Unreal Engine 5, which he believes is very demanding on current-gen consoles. In another comment, he made a comparison to the recently released Silent Hill 2 remake on the PS5. He claims that Silent Hill 2 performs significantly worse in performance mode than Stalker 2, which he feels runs much more smoothly overall. This comparison might provide a better and more useful benchmark for you. Another user wanted to know how many different graphics modes are available. Here's the answer. There are two options, a performance mode with 60 FPS and a quality mode with 30 FPS. Console Guru mentioned that he briefly tried the quality mode but found it too choppy for his taste, so he switched to the performance mode to enjoy the smoother 60 FPS experience. Another question asked was whether the game lags, has many bugs, or is well optimized overall. Console Guru responded that he had played for about 4 hours and hadn't encountered any major issues. He noted that while performance could be slightly better, the game's atmosphere and controls are excellent. One user asked whether the graphics are good or exceptional. His response was that the graphics look good, though he didn't describe them as outstanding or groundbreaking. Yet another user was curious about the resolution in performance mode. Console Guru replied that the resolution makes a good impression and that, in his opinion, it could even be slightly reduced if it meant gaining additional performance improvements. In another comment, Console Guru mentioned that the flashlight in the game does not cast dynamic shadows, a feature that was present even in older titles like Half-Life 2. However, he highlighted a positive aspect. The controller input works exceptionally well and feels very responsive. He also noted that leaning left and right with the controller is implemented well. One user asked for his overall impression of the game and what rating he would give it on a scale from 1 to 10. While it's still a bit early to make a definite judgment, it was just about a first impression. To provide some context, Console Guru shared that he had played through the prologue and a bit beyond that. He praised the game's atmosphere as fantastic, the controls as excellent, and the graphics as good. As for performance, he felt it could be better, describing it as typical Unreal Engine 5 on console. He also suggested that playing on a VRR display is a smart choice to minimize potential stuttering. Based on his experience so far, he estimated that the game would likely receive a rating between 8 and 9 from the press. And I'd say that would definitely be a good start for Stalker 2 if the ratings truly land in that range and the overall performance is acceptable. If the game doesn't suffer from significant technical issues, I think the atmosphere will be the next most important factor for most players. And that seems to be a strong point here, judging by Console Guru's other posts. One user asked whether the game has good animations and physics and if the AI and environment feel realistic. Console Guru replied that the atmosphere and AI are excellent while the rest is solid. Another user also had a specific question about the AI, particularly in relation to the bloodsuckers. Console Guru mentioned that he's playing on the easiest difficulty setting, but the game is still challenging. He compared the AI to the level of the first Stalker. In another post he expanded on the difficulty. He reiterated that the game's atmosphere is top-notch, but noted that even on the easy setting, players will die fairly often. On normal difficulty, he emphasized that you really have to stay alert and careful at all times. And finally, the most important question of all, is he having fun with the game? His answer was a resounding yes. He said the game is fun and has an old school vibe reminiscent of Stalker 1. So while Stalker 2 may have some areas for improvement, it seems to deliver where it counts. Challenging gameplay, immersive atmosphere, and a nostalgic yet engaging experience for fans of the series. I think for many fans of the original Stalker trilogy, myself included, this is the most important answer he could have given. Honestly, it just makes me even more excited to see how the game turns out and how much it will captivate me in the end. But that's all for today. I hope this has given you a good look at the early my, well, let's say first impressions of Stalker 2. But what about you? How does it make you feel? Did it sound good to you, or maybe not so much? How are you feeling about the release after hearing these new details? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next one.